Hey, this is Sarah with Close to the Earth IT Services at Apple Green Tech is my username, and today I'm going to set up a server. This is the second part. Yesterday I kind of went through my airport base station settings and changed, created a reservation for my MAC address to go into like a DHCP reservation, which is gonna make sure that I keep the same IP address. And it'll work with port forwarding, so it'll create like kind of a tunnel out to the internet for my server. So that's pretty sweet. I've got Mac OS server. It's $19, $19.99 in the Mac App Store. And it's super powerful. Like, you can run your own websites, you can have your own email host, you can host your own, kind of like have a cloud file sharing service. So it's really powerful. Why pay like Dropbox fees and even iCloud fees? Like, a lot of people have that 5 gigabytes of storage and then you run out. And then you pay, you know, a certain fee every month to put your stuff on iCloud. Well, with a little bit of management, you can save that money and just pay 20 bucks one time and just have all of your files there. So that could be wishful thinking, but I think it's possible. I haven't set up a server before. I'm actually kind of new to servers, and even though I'm like an expert in the Mac OS, and that's what my certification's in, I just figured, hey, let's learn something new and try to set up this server. Todd Olthoff is a really genius, I mean, bright guy who has this YouTube channel, and I really enjoy his videos a lot. He kind of like pushes the envelope with how much you can do with your Mac, just with a few basic tools, and he's got some really legit ideas. So if you're trying to reach me and create a comment or whatever, I'm telling you right now, I can't see it unless you're on YouTube. I've got the live chat box open, so if somebody has some kind of like comment or question, as long as it's nice, I would really appreciate it if it were nice. So yeah, but the cool thing is, like, yeah, I've just had nice people so far, so that's super awesome. So let's get started here. I'm gonna walk you through kind of what Mac server looks like. And then this is going to be a mystery to me as far as like what we can do with it and setting it up and stuff. I've tried to set up a server before and just got really frustrated and gave up. But not this time. Not this time. Alright, so I'm just going to launch my server program. And connect to the server. Alright, so we get server up. So yeah, here, let's turn it to my screen right now. And I figure this is social live. This is so cool. I'm going live on a bunch of like different platforms right now. So we're gonna minimize that. And my live chat, let's see, we'll move these guys over. Little screen organization here. Okay. Let's see. Let's see, so I'm just going to hit the play button. Oh, and smash the like, because, hey, this is a really good video. Let's just turn it up a little bit.
Hi, this is Todd Olthoff from ToddOlthoff.com, coming back at you with another screencast. In this week, we're going to take a look at some more of the changes that have been done to both High Sierra and the Server 5.4 application. Now, the reason we're looking at both of those together is there have been a number of services that have been moved out of the server application and into the main operating system itself, and so that's why we're combining those two together into one screencast, because they've been moved. And so those of you that have been looking for a few of the services that are no longer available, that's because they're now a part of the main operating system. So we're going to talk about one of those today. If you remember last screencast, I talked about the Time Machine service, which was moved out of the server application and into the main High Sierra operating system, so that now is available to everyone to be able to do network Time Machine backups. And today we're going to cover another one of those services, and that is the caching service. Those of you that have been looking for it, you come to the server application, it's no longer...
Wait a second, did you hear that? Instead of doing time machine backups on an external drive, you can do it to your server. So this would probably be a better idea for additional computers, like if you have more than one computer, but that is super rad. So you can back up other computers to Mac OS server. That means that when you do an external hard drive backup, you can grab your Mac OS server and all of that data along with it. And you can, let's say you have like a bigger, I don't know, Pegasus drive or a 4 terabyte or more. You can actually host your own time machine backups on a RAID or like a bigger file service, like a backup drive. So that's pretty powerful.
Here in the sidebar, and that's because this too has been moved into the main system preferences of High Sierra. So I'm going to put down the server application and show you this change. So if we come into system preferences here, we're going to go to the sharing tab. Now everything is pretty much moved into this tab. Anything that's changed from the server application is moved in here. So if I just click on that, you'll notice down here I have the addition of content caching now added right here into the sharing pane of system preferences. And so what I'm going to do is walk through how to set this up and also some hidden features that aren't obvious right away so that you know how to get at them. Now the content caching service is designed to help you reduce bandwidth and save bandwidth, because what it does is it sets up a server or a space, let's say, on your hard drive or an external drive where you will download your different updates, things from the App Store or software updates that you do. Instead of having to have each individual computer download those over and over again, one machine downloads it, the server keeps a copy of that download, and then all of your other devices update from that download, as opposed to having to re-download everything from Apple servers again. So if you have limited...
Hey, I just want to break in here and say that if you have, let's say, a DSL line or a connection that's under... I'm going to go with 20 megabytes per second. These downloads will take hours. So if you're doing like a new operating system upgrade, or you're doing anything like that, any bigger applications, Microsoft Office, God, that's going to take a long time. So the fact that you can cache this iCloud content is really huge. So that's pretty awesome. Just letting you know.
Bandwidth, and you don't want to use that up with all of these updates, then that's a great way to handle it, especially if you've got a lot of Macs and iOS devices in your home or at your business especially. This makes it very efficient for you to be able to have those downloads happen. The beauty of it is it's a zero setup type of a thing, and what that means is that your devices will automatically look for a caching server first before they go to Apple servers, so you don't have to do anything on your devices themselves to configure them to look for the caching server on your network. So it really is a great service because it's a set it and almost forget it kind of a thing. So here we are in system preference.
Hang on, let's do that right away. About this Mac. No, sorry, I meant to go to system preferences. System preferences. And sharing, content caching. Okay, that is so awesome. All right.
And so let's take a look at this content caching. So all I'd have to do to activate it is to check this box right here to turn it on. Now you can see right now it shows that it's off, and I've got two options here. I can choose to cache iCloud content. And so that's iCloud data, such as your photos and documents and stuff like that, that you would cache that information on your computer. Now, this can be good and this can be bad. You know, if you already have a machine where you download everything to it, and so you have all of your hard files, let's say, on that one machine, then maybe you probably don't need to check this box. If you don't, and you'd like to have everything in one place, then you can check that box, and then every time you download something, it's going to cache a version of it in the caching server so that, again, all of your devices on the network don't re-download those things from iCloud. So that's in the case where you're, let's say, sharing iCloud with a number of people and that sort of thing, and you're not storing all of your documents on your machine, you're storing them in iCloud. Then that's how you would use that, and it would save you bandwidth. So again, it all depends on how you have your setup going as to whether you want to use this or not. Just be aware that it's going to store all of that data somewhere, and so it's going to take up a lot of hard drive space, so it's really up to you. Then you have this option to share internet connection here. And so that's where you're sharing the computer's internet connection and cache content with iOS devices connected using USB. And so that's if you have those devices connected USB, you could use share internet connection for that to happen. So you can check that box right there. Now, we also have this options area down here. And if I just click on this options area, I get this drop down where I can choose where I want to store the cache. And so I can choose to store it on my main drive, or if I just hit edit, it gives me access to all of my other drives, and I may want to store it something like this maybe, where I'm going to store it in a bigger storage cache or a bigger drive so that I can have that information stored there. The other thing I can do is right here is I'll see what storage is used. So it gives me a way to check how much is actually on the drive, how much has it downloaded. It gives me an idea to know whether or not it's actually working or not by taking a look to see if I'm starting to see megabytes, gigabytes show up here in the storage used. And then I've got this cache size where I can choose from unlimited to driving it down to, you can see I've got a lot of space on this drive, driving it all the way down to a more manageable level of cache. You know, maybe I want to take this thing and I can go like this, and maybe I say I only want to have, let's say, 500 gigabytes or 300 or 400, whatever it is, of storage, and then I would say okay, and then I would save that, and that would save my information. I'm just going to cancel it for our purposes right here. Now, you look at that and you say, wow, that's really simple, doesn't seem to give me a lot of other customization options. Like, what about if I've got multiple caching servers on a network? Because you can set it up that way, where you have either a fallback or you've got them working in tandem. You know, how do I determine who gets access and who doesn't get access if I want to limit it and that sort of a thing? Well, there are advanced options in here that are just hidden. If you go to your keyboard and you hold down the actual Alt key or Option, notice that that Options area turns into Advanced Options. You can see how that actually changes right there. And so with the key held down, if I just click on Advanced Options, all of a sudden I've got a few extra things that have been added. I've got tabs now added to the storage area. You can see that this looks the same as we just went over with the storage information, but now I've got this clients, peers, and parents area, and this is where I can do some of the customization that I could have done in server that was missing from the server app here, or actually the system preferences app. So if I just click on clients here, you'll notice that I've got some options here for clients. Now the clients tab allows you to configure which computers can class themselves as clients for the caching server and are actually permitted to use and store the data here. So that's how you would determine that. So this is how you would determine those class. And so I can say cache content for devices using the same local networks. So those are when we're on the same local network, that's who I want to cache for. Or if I drop this down, I've got a few other options. I can choose devices using the same public IP address, so that if I've got multiple subnets or networks, it's just based on the public IP address, not on a specific subnet that I'm on locally. Devices using custom local networks that I set up, so I would limit it to specific networks, or devices using custom networks with fallback, and that's where I've got a fallback server that just in case I can't get access to the one server, I've got another one that I can access for cache content. So I can choose how I want that set up. And then down below, I say my local networks use either one public IP address or a custom public IP addresses. And so if I chose one of these, then I get this area here where I put the start IP address and the end IP address so that I'm limiting it down by IP address, and then DNS configuration as well is set up here. And so that's where you can see some of the server stuff coming into play here. Interestingly enough, here I just would go and change it to whatever I want. Okay, so let's just go ahead and put this back to one IP address. Then I've got the peers area here, and the peers tab is similar to the clients tab, but this tab is about sharing cache between other servers instead of clients. So that what's happening is I'm setting up IP address ranges to share content with. And so you can see here I can share content with content caches using the same local networks, or again, using the same public IP address or custom local networks. And so again, that's where I've got different clients that get to say that they're caching servers, okay? And then the final tab we have here is the Parents tab. And what this does is this allows me to set up a hierarchy of servers inside a network or across a network where content is cached among these servers, and then I can set up the order or the way in which people address those different servers to pull the cached content down. So what I would do is put IP addresses in here and all these IP address ranges, and I want to make sure I put them in a particular order, whatever order I want, because I'm going to use that when it comes to what I select down here for the parent policy for how to access these different caching servers. So the first parent policy here is round robin, and so what round robin will do is it will cycle through these different parent IP addresses one at a time until it finds a server it can connect to, and then it connects to that one. So the order is very important with the round robin setting. But I've got these other settings available as well. So I've got this first available, and so what it's going to do is the IPs are tried again in order until the server is found. Okay, so it's going to just try them in order, find the first server available, and whatever's available, it's going to connect to it. Okay, instead of just cycling through it, it's just looking for what's open. I have random, and that's again, it will just randomly pick a caching server by its own choice for each request, and that doesn't have anything to do with any order to it. It's just going to pick one. And then I've got sticky available, and what sticky available is that it still uses the first available option, but once I've connected to one of those caching servers, I'm going to try that one again and just stick to that one unless it's unavailable. So if I hit the third one in the order up here, then I'm going to go back to the third one and just stick to that one until something changes where I can't connect or get through to it. So that's another way. And then hash down below is what happens is that the path of the URL that was accessed to do the download or the update is captured, and then what happens is that hash then is remembered, and anybody who tries to do that download is now going to go to the same location to get that particular download, as opposed to going across different servers. So it's almost like it ties an address to that particular download, so it goes back to that particular space. So as you can see, there's a lot of things that I can do in here to customize the caching service. It's added a few more things even than were available in the previous server version, but it really makes it a lot better. And this was a hidden advanced options area that wasn't known by too many people because it's not obvious at the first glance. So that's the new caching service inside of High Sierra. Again, moved out of macOS Server into High Sierra, and it's now called Content Caching right here in System Preferences under the Sharing pane. Now I'm going to continue to do more of these screencasts to help you understand how to use macOS Server and High Sierra. So if you're interested in that content and when it's delivered, I typically put these out every Friday. And if you'd like, subscribe to my channel so that you get updates on when these things are happening. There's even a little alert.
Yeah, definitely hit up Todd Oldoff.
Come up so that you don't have to hunt for it, and that would really help me out with the channel as well. So that's all I have for this week. I'll be back at you next week with another.
We'll help you, Todd.
Help you learn how to do more things with your Mac.
Count on us, Betty.
Help in setting up your own server.
All right, so now I'm just going to turn the camera on again and go back to these settings that I've got here. And let's see. I wonder how small I can make this. Oh, yep, that's what I'm going to do. It's just, let's see. Okay. So what do you think? I mean, so far we've learned some pretty powerful things. You can actually use your server instead of like a network attached storage drive, which would be really cool. And it will be really helpful to use that iCloud caching, because any of your devices that are going to go through an update will actually look for that server first. So that will be pretty sweet. So let's say you have more than one phone and more than one iPad, and you're going to go and do this, what is it called? The iOS 11 update, let's say. So you'll just download it one time, whether it's a phone, an iPad, a computer, whatever, Obviously, computer wouldn't have iOS. No. But if you just have to download it one time, and then your computer or your devices will search for that on your network, and it will be found and just like minimize the amount of time that you need. You just download it one time, and then your upgrades, whether they're from the App Store for apps you have or whether it's operating systems, anything iCloud will search for that caching server first. So that'll save us some time. I mean, is that a huge deal? It can be, because now it won't say like downloading update, because that can take a lot of time. Kind of a bummer. Let's see if we have any questions, any comments. Let's see. I'm just gonna look on Twitter here, see if there are any notifications. Kind of can't tell. I don't know, man. Maybe there are some comments. Let's see if there are any comments. What's up, comments? We got chat over here. Chatting. See if there's any comments happening. If you have any questions or you'd like to participate in any way, I have this iPhone SE that I have for this purpose. It's a pay-as-you-go. So the phone number is 805-816-3792. If you want to FaceTime and participate or write me a little text message, you can jump in on this phone. 805-816-3792 is the number. All right. So let's check out if there are any comments or if there's anything to say, whatnot. And then we can move to the next chapter. Just trying to look for the comments. Oh boy. Looking for comments. No comments. All right. Well, that's cool. That's cool, I guess. Just kidding. Just gonna quick check if there's anything to respond to. Nope. Okay, well, that's cool. I guess like there are no comments. No news is good news. I guess it's like, at least it's not mean comments. That's nice. Okay, so then let's move on. We're going to be going to High Sierra Server 5.4, and we'll go to file sharing. So we'll check that out. Okay.
Every business needs videos.
All right. So YouTubers, I just want you to know that I watched the whole commercial. I don't necessarily have the sound on, but I let it play through because I know that that's very important. So totally want to help out in that way. Okay. So I'm just going to switch it around to my screen. Switching it around, yeah. Okay. I find it ironic that there's so many Vimeo ads. Okay, let's see. We gotta turn it
Hi, this
up.
is Todd Oltoff from ToddOltoff.com, coming back at you with another screencast. In this week, we're going to continue our look at some of the changes to Mac OS High Sierra and to the Server 5.4 version. Now, as we've been talking in this series, there have been some changes that have taken some of the services that were only available in Mac OS Server and have moved them over to the main OS. And so in our previous screencast, we covered things like the caching service and some of that sort of thing, and Time Machine. And this week, we're going to take a look at file sharing. Now, file sharing has always been available inside of Mac OS in the System Preferences area of the Sharing tab. But in Mac OS Server, we had a lot more features that we could implement and things that we could do with file sharing inside the server app itself. But now, with Mac OS High Sierra, those features have moved into the main OS itself, and so they're no longer fully available in the server app. And as you'll see in a minute, I'm saying fully available because some of those things are still available in the server application, and we'll talk about the overlap between those things here as we go through the screencast. So I'm here in the server application, and as you can see, file sharing is gone. It's not a service in the sidebar anymore. And if I just put that down, that's just because it's in System Preferences now. So if I launch System Preferences, I want to come into the Sharing tab here. And as you can see, there's file sharing right here. To turn the service on, I just hit the checkbox right here. And you'll notice that it defaults to SMB as the file sharing protocol. Now, that's because AFP, which is Apple's file sharing protocol, is being deprecated. And that's because SMB allows encrypted connections and a few other things. So those aren't there. And for Apple's new APFS file system, that will no longer use the Apple file sharing protocol. Okay, so that's going to go away. So just wanted to let you know we're still in a crossover state where both of those are available, but that gives you an idea of how that works. So here we are inside, like I said, the file sharing area. And you'll notice I've got my shared folders over here that I can add, and I've got my users over here with different access. Now, a couple of things as we get started. So let me just go ahead and come in here, and I'm just going to remove this here because I like to start with a clean slate here in terms of adding shares. So let's go through this. First, we have our options right here, and you'll notice that I have the choice to share files and folders using SMB, and I have the option to use share files and folders using AFP. So I still have this AFP option for older systems if I really want to do that, so I can turn that on if I want. Now we also have this Windows file sharing over here where I can share files with some Windows computers. Now if I'm using Open Directory, this really isn't necessary because I'll be using Open Directory as the login and that sort of thing. But if I'm not using Open Directory, then I may want to come in here and check off my computer and all that kind of stuff. You can see it's already put the calendar server with a checkbox there so it can share with Windows accounts. So this is where you come in and kind of configure overall how you want to do the file sharing. Let's just say done. Now, to add a file share, I just want to come over here and hit the plus, and so I get this ability to search for what files or folders I want to share. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and leave my Documents folder there. I'm going to add that to share it. You can see the Documents folder gets added right here. And then over to the side, I've got my basic users. I've got my administrator right here, or whatever my main account is, and then I've got everyone here as well, and they have no access. So right now, only one person has access to this particular file share. Now, to get to more options, if I wanted to do some more tweaking with this, if I just control-click on the folder there, you'll notice I get a number of different options. I can show in the Finder if I want to do that, and that'll take me, if I just click on this, you'll see it'll take me right to the Finder where that folder is located. Just come back in here and control-click again. I can apply permissions to enclosed items. So what that means is that any permissions that I set up here within the Sharing tab here for file sharing, I can choose to apply to any other folder or document that's inside this particular folder or share. So I can do that here. I also have Get Info. If I just click on Get Info, I get the Get Info window brought up here, and that gives me information about this folder, including down here I can also work with setting up the different permissions for my file shares. Now to do that, I would have to unlock this right here, and then that would open this up for me to do these changes in here. And I've got the same kind of things, right? I can apply to the enclosed items, or I can revert changes here. So I can actually do some of the file sharing work right in the Get Info area by either clicking here or just Command I will get me in there as well. Let me just close that window down and come back over here. And let's control click again. Now I also have some advanced options, and so if I just click on advanced options here, I get this drop down which allows me to choose how I want this folder shared. I can share it with SMB, AFP, or both SMB and AFP. So it's up to you on how you want to do that. If you have some legacy systems, you might want to make sure you include AFP on there. But if not, you might want to just start that whole conversion over to SMB if you want to get used to the future of where this is going, as well as be able to encrypt. And so as you can see down here, I can choose to allow guest users or not. And then I can say only allow SMB encrypted connections.
Oh, that's awesome.
Encrypted. That folder will be encrypted, and any of the things back and forth will be shared. And then as I showed you earlier in the time machine video, that I can choose to share a particular folder as a time machine destination, and then choose how to limit the backups and that sort of thing. So I'm just going to leave this the way it is for right now and just say cancel. Now I can also do some work over here. And so when I come over to my users, if I just control click on my users, I have the same types of things, right? Where I can show in Finder, get permissions. It's basically the same menu that I have over here, and as you can see, it'll take me to the same places and get me to the information I want. So I can do it on the user or on the documents. It's up to you how you want to do that. Now in here, I've got my basic read and write privileges, right? Where I can read a file and write to it. I can either do that or read only, where I can only read the file, but I can't write to it. Or write only, which works kind of like a Dropbox, where I can't see what's in the folder, but I can only put stuff into it. So it's kind of like I drop it in the folder, but that's all I see is the folder itself to drop files into. So I can set up those permissions there. To add somebody new, I just come down here and hit the plus, and then it allows me to search through my different users. And I can select a user here, let's say like administrators, and say OK. And then from there, I can choose what level access I want administrators to have for this particular folder. So that gives you an overview of how this works inside of the sharing application. Again, it's got all of the options built into here pretty much, but it doesn't have the fine-tuned granularity that we had in Server itself. Now, luckily, a lot of those options are still available. Now, to get access to those more advanced settings, let me just come down here and pull up the Server application again. And so here we are inside of Server, and you can see I'm on the Server tab itself over here. If I just come across to the Storage tab, you'll see that I have information on my drive there. In fact, let me just change how we view this. So what I would do is just drill into where the share is. And so if I just come in here, there's my Documents folder right there. And so that's where the share is located. Now, in order for me to make changes to these permissions, I would just come down here to the gear icon. And you can see I have a number of options. I can choose to add a new folder inside this folder, to edit permissions, or to propagate permissions. So editing permissions would allow me to edit the specifics. I'm going to show you what that looks like in a second. And then propagating permissions is basically allows me to take whatever permissions I set and make sure that they go all the way through any folders or documents that are inside the share, or inside, in our case, the Documents folder. So let's just go ahead and say Edit Permissions. And so I get this nice drop down, and already you can see that I have a few more options than I had over in System Preferences. You can see I've got a staff option here, an others option, which is a more global option. You can see there's my user that was in there, there's the administrators, and everyone else right here as well. I get the same access to permissions, right? I can do read and write only, write only. I do have the option to say none if I wanted to keep this particular user present. Maybe I don't want any access there. I'd be very careful how you use this none option, however, because if you set that for, let's say, your main local account, it's going to lock you out of file shares or out of whatever documents, folder, whatever it is you're sharing. So have a lot of caution here in terms of making those kind of changes. But you can see I have those options there with this drop down, just like I have over in System Preferences. But I have some additional things that I can do as well. If I just click the little triangle here, you notice I have more granularity in how I want to set up my particular rules here for access. You can see I've got an administration, read, write, and inheritance access in here. And so these are called ACLs, and this allows me to make particular changes. If I just click down here, you see I can, for administrators, I can allow them to change permissions or change owners. If this isn't checked, then that can't be done. For read, I can have them change read attributes, extended attributes, list folder contents to read data, traverse the folder or execute a file, and then read permissions. For write, I can write attributes, extended attributes, create files, create folder, and delete. And then right here for inheritance, I can apply to this folder, child folders, apply to child files, apply to all descendants. And so this is nice if I just want to make changes at a top level that apply to everything inside the actual folder, then I can set this up to allow me to be able to do that when I make those particular changes. And you can see I've got that here for administrators as well, to add the same types of things inside of here. Let me just come up here and close this down. So as you can see, it gives me a lot more fine control over how to do file sharing. And I've gone into detail in this in the past in a screencast I did for Sierra, where I walked through all of the ACLs and how all of that worked. You might want to refer to that one if you want to understand what each of those things mean. And I'll put a link here so that you can get at that. I'll probably end up redoing some of this stuff for High Sierra server as well, though a lot of things haven't changed. They're pretty close to where they were before. But again, I usually go through those series, but just wanted to allow you to have access to that early if you want inside of here. Now, once I've made particular changes to a folder, if I just select this, you'll notice that I've got the option here to sort access controls canonically, and I can remove inherited entries or make inherited entries explicit. And so again, that would be based on whatever I'm putting in here for a user or a group if I'm making a change to this particular share, which I'm not. So I'm just going to go ahead and cancel here. Now when I come out here, if I've made changes, this is where I would come in here and say propagate permissions. And once I do that, I get this drop down that says select the information I want to propagate to whatever is inside that share, right? Whatever's below it in the tree. So I can propagate an owner name, a group name, owner group, or other permissions, and then the access control list, which would have been all those fine-tuned changes that I did when I was inside the different users there to select what I wanted to do. And so I could propagate that, and then that would change the permissions for everything underneath it to match. Let me go ahead and cancel. So that gives you an idea of how file sharing works. As you can see, most of it has been integrated into Mac OS, High Sierra, but there are still some things in server that give more fine-grained control so that you can go in and make your changes. One of the things I would suggest is to go ahead and go into the file sharing in system preferences, for instance, right here. I'd set up your file sharing. I'd go in and put whatever shared folders you want in here. I wouldn't worry about your users and all that stuff. Just put your shared folders in here. Go through next with the options. Maybe you want to do the advanced options to choose how you want these to work inside of there. You can also do some of the options here and get those set ahead of time. And then what I would do is then I would come back into the server application, and inside the storage tab here is where I would set up the actual permissions, because I've got more of that fine-grained control. So that would just be an easier way to do it. So that's how I'd use those two things together. Again, not particularly convenient in the sense that you got to use two applications to get the level of control you had before. But if you think about it, you used to have to come over here to file sharing and then back into the storage tab to do this level of detail change anyway. So it's just two windows instead of one, but you're still having to flip back and forth. So that's how that would work. So that's all I have for this week. I'll be back at you next week with another screencast to help you learn how to do more things with your Mac. If you're interested in help in setting up your own server, feel free to contact me at Todd.
Well, that's pretty cool. He's so knowledgeable. So file sharing, this could be a huge thing where you can grab files remotely. And there are services like Back to My Mac and stuff, but I think this would be really a lot better just to have your own dedicated server for that. So let's see here. Oh, here's a playlist. Definitely going to save that playlist.
Hi, this is Todd Oltoff from Todd
Okay,
Oltoff.
cool beans. Thanks, dude. Just going to save his playlist for, I'm just going to put it on best videos. So what have we learned so far? I guess we can, I don't know, understand that there are a lot of things that we can do with this very super cheap application to make your life so much easier, especially with the file sharing stuff. So, I mean, it's kind of like, oh, well, why would you want to share files? Well, we're doing that all the time using online apps. Why not spend 20 bucks and get, instead of a bunch of different apps, you can have your own secure server, and you can actually encrypt the data to how it said SMB, encrypt the data. So that's the sharing protocol that Mac OS server can use, and you can actually send that like super secure and just encrypt that connection. Pretty epic, very, very safe. let's see here. So the network configuration with Apple routers. I did that yesterday. Part 10. No, I didn't do part 10 yesterday. Let's see what else is next. Okay, file sharing. Okay, WebDAV setup. We need to know this. So let's turn this around. That's not making me watch a commercial. That's pretty sweet. We're going to the screen capture. Let me turn this up.
Our look at some of the changes that have taken place in Server 5.4 because Apple has changed a number of things. They've removed some services, and this week specifically we're going to talk about the WebDAV service that was removed or seemingly removed and changed by Apple. So Apple did make a shift. Previously they had an iOS shares option where you could share files or folders with iOS devices over WebDAV, and so it was nice to be able to get access to your files inside the actual applications on your iOS devices. But Apple removed those in this latest edition of Server, and they moved the WebDAV service to the command line, which makes it a little bit more difficult to get access to and not quite as accessible. So not exactly sure why they did that, but thought I would do a screencast to walk you through that so that you could figure out how to get it working again. Now, one of the things I did is I did pour through all of the different files because mine didn't work, and I'm not sure if this has happened to you, but when I did the upgrade, I couldn't connect to those shares anymore and had all kinds of problems. I tried going through the files, I tried figuring out what was wrong, I looked at ports, I looked at configuration files, and just couldn't get it happening. So I also did a clean install on another Mac that I had around just to see if that was part of the problem, and I had the same issues where where it could see the WebDAV share in terms of it would give me a certificate page that said, hey, you got to it's an untrusted certificate, do you want to trust it? I'd say yes, and then it would just kind of hang and never load, and then it would say it couldn't get access to the server, almost like it wasn't allowing access. So I figured out how to get this to work, at least for me, and so hopefully this will help you as well. Now, one of the things you want to make sure that you do first as we get started here is, number one, you want to make sure that you at least have port 443 open, because that is the port over which secure WebDAV sharing goes, and so you want to make sure that's open on your router. And also, in addition to that, you want to make sure that you've got the website service turned on here, as well as the wiki service. And if I just go to the wiki service, this was the really important part. Make sure that you've got this box, enable WebDAV access to wiki files, checked. Once I enabled the wiki service and had that box checked, then all of a sudden everything started working for me. And so I just want to give you that ahead of time because it was a little thing that I didn't consider, and once I did it, all of a sudden it worked. So that might work for you as well. So just wanted to show you that that was there. So anyway, now one of the things with the WebDAV service, like I said, is it works through the command line. So let me just show you how that works. Okay, so here I am over on the command line, and so I'm just in a terminal window here. And so what we're going to do...
Okay, I'm going to open up the terminal. So here's a fast way to go to terminal on a Mac. Is just press anywhere on the desktop, go to the Go menu, and then you can actually go to Utilities and check out terminal right here. Easy. Also, you have a bunch of other utilities too. The Go menu on the Finder app. Okay, back to this.
Is we use something that's called the WebDAV File Sharing Control Utility, and that's something that Apple has put in there that allows us to configure our WebDAV shares. And so, like I said, shout out to Charles Edge over at cryptid.com, who basically gave an outline of how this works. Again, it was one of the first things out there, and so it's a huge help to have people just kind of publishing those things, and so thanks a lot, Charles. So let me just show you how this works. So what we're going to do is, it happens with sudo, okay, so it's going to happen with root, and we type sudo, and then it's wfsctl, and that's what's short for that WebDAV File Sharing Control Utility. And then we're going to put a space, and to start the service, you just type start, and then you hit enter, put in your password, and so as I'm doing that, it's not going to show that I'm typing it in there. That's just how terminal works. I hit enter, and it's going to check for available server names. It's going to start the service. Now mine's already running, so it's going to show what's there. It's going to show all that information. I get this error that comes back. I think it's because I've already got it started and running, but mine works anyway, so just wanted to let you know that. That's how you would do it. It would show you your host
showing an
names
error
and
message
host names
because
that it's available at. So you can see I've got my
I don't know what I'm
domain
doing.
name there. I've got the local server and local host, and those are the available names. And so that's how that works. It just says that this particular one with the capital letters there isn't available, so it's just finding that as an error. That's not a problem. It's still working for me.
Mine's not
So
working.
once I've got that done, then I can set up the shares that I want to set up. And again, everything goes through the command line again to set up those shares. So again, I would just go sudo, and I would say wfsctl, and then what I would do is I would go in and put my share. And so what I need to do is put share, and then I've got to go whatever the path is for that share. So for instance, let me just pull up a Finder window here. Let's just say I want to share my downloads folder. Down here is where I'd see the path. So it'd be users, Mac server there, downloads. And that's what I would do to put that share in there. So let's just go ahead and put this down. And we're just going to type that in here. So I'm going to say users, and I want to type it just like I see it there.
Oh yeah.
So users,
Oh, yeah, got it.
Mac server,
I know.
and then downloads.
Oh no.
And so I'm just going to hit enter there. And so no existing SharePoint. And so it created the SharePoint for me. So now that's a share. So that's available to share. If I ever want to unshare something, I just do that in reverse. So it would look like this. I'd say WFSCTL, and I'd say unshare, and then put the same things in there. And downloads. Put that in there, and then you can see the SharePoint is not shared either way. No other shares, deleting the SharePoint, and now it's deleted it and it's disappeared, and so now it's not available. So that's how you would share and unshare. You would do that right here from the command line. Now, if you ever have problems where you don't know what's going wrong, maybe the SharePoint isn't working and you...
Okay, I don't know what he's talking about at this point. So here's what I do when I start to get frustrated with something that I think is normally pretty fun. Here, I'm going to turn on this little light. Turn on my little light. What I do is I just stop. So if I start to get frustrated and confused and like don't know what to do, at this point, the thing that I'm thinking is, okay, well, I don't know how many steps back he's done. I don't have a lot of my services set up, and in the past, I've just given up, basically, when it's time to like, okay, it's time to set up a server. I only get so far, and then I go like, I don't know what I don't know, and then I just give up. So instead of doing that this time, I am, I think I have to go back and watch the other videos. But here's the other thing where I get overwhelmed and stop, is that I'll be like, oh, I have to watch all the other 12 videos, and I don't want to do that. So... and I don't want to share my downloads folder. And then I just stop. Which I really don't want to share my downloads folder, because there's a bunch of crap in there. So, yeah, that's where I'll get frustrated and stop. So instead of just getting frustrated and stopping, I'm just going to stop, feel the frustration, and just go like, cool, I'm going to come back to this later, but I'm not going to give up. This time, I am not going to give up. I will set up my OS X server, and I think about what we've accomplished so far, if you're following along, is that we have set up Time Machine backups to work on the network. So that saves us a few $100, because now we'll have Time Machine backups working on network attached storage, and we could do that super cheaply with like very cheap equipment. So check all over that. And also we're saving time because we set up the iCloud sharing caching server. So now anytime there's an update, we've got a caching server, so you just have to download updates one time and it's done. So how do we end on a positive? I mean, when I start to feel frustrated and defeated, I try to do something that I actually just can do so that I can mitigate that feeling of frustration and just kind of like calm myself down. Like, no, I'm actually smart. I can do this, but I need to learn how to do it. So how can I like reward myself for trying? So I try to think of positive things that I actually took you with me to set up the server. I'm doing something new. I'm taking a friend, and that's really good for everybody. So, pat on the back for doing that. Let's just check if we have any comments on the Facebook. Not Facebook, it's the live chat for YouTube. Another thing I'm doing as an experiment, which I think is positive and worth noting, is I'm trying to sort of manipulate this YouTube situation to get my view hours up by going live. So I thought of this idea, and I don't know if it's helpful for other YouTube creators, which I don't really put myself in that category because I see these filmmakers who are just brilliant making these super cool YouTube films, and I just don't have the motivation to do that. I've made a few of them, and I got all the equipment, and then I was like, F it. That's too hard. I just watch someone like Sarah Dietschy, and I compare myself to her incredible storytelling, or iJustine, or like Casey Neistat, or Sam Sheffer, or whatever. I'm just like, oh, I can't do it like them. So I guess I just wanted to try. So this is me trying something new that I can do that is going to be in the affirmative of like, all right, so I'm not going to be iJustine. That's cool. I don't have like the storylines and the thoughts and like, what am I going to do next? And how am I going to get views? And let's make thumbnails. I don't have the bandwidth for that. I'm running a business. I have a family, and I have 2 dogs that depend on me. I have a lot of things happening. I am a mature person with responsibilities. So that is why that's not going to work for me. But that is okay. That's okay. Different things for different folks. What can I tell you here? I'm just scrolling through to see if there are any questions. Okay, here's somebody that I'm following who I really appreciate, Roberto Blake. Here's a thread. For the small YouTubers at or near 1,000 subscriptions who need the 4,000 hours of watch time due to changes in the YouTube partner program, since I don't have a video up about YouTube watch time exclusively, this thread will give you the tips that you need. I wonder if look at this. Tip number 4. If you have 100 subscribers, use live streams to rack up watch time and make that the replay available so that it keeps getting watch time. Make sure that you have a format and agenda for your stream to make it watchable. Okay, well, I don't know if this is watchable, but I think it is. I don't know. I'm not watching it. I'm actually doing it. But I think it's helpful to set up a server. Cool in the gang. This is almost my longest live stream. So that's pretty cool. So I think let's go back. We're in the home stretch when it comes to this server video. And sometimes when you start getting frustrated with a tech project, you just need to take a break. Think about positive things and all the good things that you've done to become willing to get to this point where when you're doing something out of your comfort zone. Give yourself a pat on the back for being willing to do it. And then take a step back and go back in with a fresh vibe to try to complete the project. You might not complete it today. You might not complete it in one session, but just to persevere and try to just do a few more minutes, it will get you to the next level. So I'm going to turn it around to screen capture. Here's my social live. It's so cool. I'll do a tutorial on this someday. And did I close out of server? No, I didn't. Alright, so I'm just going to go to this. I don't think it's going to show. I'm going to do something that won't show my IP address. Cool. Let's hit play.
Want to diagnose it, you would just do the same thing. You do sudo wfsctl, and then you just type diagnose. And so what this is going to do is diagnose my share. And so it goes through a whole process of seeing if it's mapped and everything's ready to go. And you can see if I just scroll up to the top here, what it's going to do is give me information on the share. It'll show what the settings are in the P list. It'll say what my SharePoint name is and whether it's shared. You can see yes, it's shared with WebDAV there. You can see that it looks at the different servers, different ports, whether they're responding or not. And then it says a currently available valid servers just based on my local IP addresses that it runs through. It's got my current valid server names that I can use to access it. And then it goes through the different ports and such. Now, one of the things that I saw is it'll say things like it's not responding on port 80 or 443 and that it's using a non-standard port 81. What I found was I tried to fix that or figure that out earlier, but that wasn't something I needed to do. I just needed to throw that wiki service on, and it took care of it for me because it works with proxies and all of that sort of thing. So I just left that alone and everything was fine. And you can see it gives me all the different processes that are there for Apache. And so now that's how you would diagnose it. So if there are any problems, you would check it out that way. But that gives you an idea of how all of that works inside of the terminal. If you wanted to look at the manual, as some people have asked, I think it just goes sudo wfsctl man. And so basically what it does is it shows you the different usage things for the file sharing control utility. And so it'll show you the different things. You can start, stop, status, shares. Then you can unshare with the path or diagnose. It kind of shows you what the usage is there for the control utility. So we've got another one there where we can stop the service if we want, or we can do the status. And so let's just do that just so we can see it. So we'll go sudo wfsctl and we'll go status. And so then it'll tell us that the status is enabled so that we know the service is on. So that gives you a walkthrough of the command line utilities. Now let's take a look at what it looks like to connect to that just to test it to see if it will work internally and externally. Again, you want to make sure you open the ports on your router for that to happen so that you can get access to it. Again, ports 443, you could also open port 80 if you wanted to, although it probably doesn't work through there, but port 443 is the big one because we're using SSL for the connection. So let me go over to my iPhone and I'll put that on here and show you what it looks like.
Ooh.
Okay, so here I am over in the Files application that comes with iOS 11. And so you can see I've got different locations there like iCloud Drive and such. And you can see I've got applications like Transmit and Documents here that will also access my WebDAV shares. And so in order to do this, I'm just going to go ahead and tap on Transmit. And so it takes me into the Transmit application here. Now, what I'm going to do is just, you can see it's got remote on the bottom. I'm going to tap on the Quick Connect right here. And so I have options inside of Transmit to choose how I want to connect. And you can see I've got WebDAV there via HTTPS. And so that's what you want to use. So I'm just going to tap back. You can see I've got that there. Then I just need to put in my server address, which would be my fully qualified domain name. And so let me just go ahead and put that in there. And I don't have to put a lot of extra stuff in here in Transmit. Sometimes it asks you to put the HTTPS with the colons and all that. In fact, I'll just type it out that way. So HTTPS with the colons there, with the 2 slashes, and then you put in your server's address. And once you have that in there, then it's going to be a slash with WebDAV.
Hold up, Todd. Okay, so let's go back to this because I want to look at what Transmit is. Okay, so here I am on the App Store. I've got Transmit. Download, upload, and manage files on your servers. Includes Panic Sync, our secure Super Sync server, for free. But the app is not free, it's $9.99. If you're a pretty serious nerd like us, you probably have access to an FTP, SFTP, WebDAV, or Amazon S3 server that you use for, say, web serving, group collaboration, as a personal cloud storage service, or who knows what. Transmit for iOS allows you to connect to that server and manage all of your files exactly as you'd expect. Transfer, make folders, rename, delete, set permissions. You know how it works, and Transmit does it. Okay. So you can upload stuff from your phone to server. including compatible applications like iWork, for example. So let's see here. So you can do photos, voice memos. You can share stuff that's really iOS specific. So that's pretty cool. Let's say you save funny videos from Snapchat. Yeah, you can put them on your file sharing server, or you can upload them to your website or whatever. Put a copy of WordPress up on your website and you can host your own server, and it's $20. And you can just, there's probably little difference between the bandwidth and everything that you need from a server that you would use on a hosting service and your home computer. Maybe they use SSD drives, but you can easily do that. Yesterday I showed you my favorite hack. In here I have a let's see if I can open this up and show you. I have a Crucial drive. So we have a laptop. I have a laptop hard drive that I got. This is, I think it's a 1 terabyte drive. And I put it in an enclosure. I'm trying to, okay. Yes. All right. So this is an old Mac hard drive, laptop hard drive. I'm going to take this apart. This is my very favorite hack for Mac. All right. So anti-static is huge, usually really big when handling computer parts, but we're not dealing with anything powered or a logic board. So you can handle raw drives and little components with your bare hands. It's not a big deal. So what I did was, you can buy a drive like this size. This is just a standard laptop battery. And you can take a hard drive enclosure. So you can get these at Fry's or online or whatever, Amazon. It's a hard drive enclosure. And it has this little piece. This is, I can't remember what it's called. It's for hard drives. Shoot, I can't remember what this thing is called. No, it's gone. I forgot. So what you do is you buy one of these drives, right, and an enclosure. The enclosure will have the following parts. It will have this thing that goes with USB. Oh, should I do this like a beauty blogger? Look at this. Hi, babe. And then it'll have parts. The top, the main sled part, this. I have the camera pointing that way. You do? Oh, now I'm nervous.
No, just keep going with your thing, babe.
Okay. And then it has this cord. So this will go, this is USB B. And then we have this part that goes to the hard drive. So you take this, you can get a brand new SSD drive. This is a spinning drive from 2012 MacBook Pro that I took apart. So you can actually take this raw drive, put it in this thing, and I'm going to show you how to do that. You just take these parts, put them together, and we'll put this with this part on it in here, just like that. Okay, all right, so that guy is in here, right? And I'm just gonna put the top on. Smushing it together. I mean, it's really, there's no way you can really mess this up. And then here I have the cord for this, and we'll just put these guys together. And here I have what looks like an external hard drive, right? But the Mac OS, this is different to PC because a PC won't support other startup drives. You can boot your computer off of this. So what I do is I use a program called Carbon Copy Cloner, and I take, it's my Bombich software, B-O-M-B-I-C-H. They're just a family-owned company in Washington, and they make Carbon Copy Cloner. They will let you use it 3 times for free. And I learned about this from someone who is a professional editor, and he used to have a, a post-production house. And every month they would go through their computers and completely they would clone them, they would erase the drives, and then they would reinstall the drives back, the operating systems back on the computer. So erasing and reinstalling a clean version is really important. So what I do with these is I'll take my hard drive that's inside the computer, I will make a clone of it, and I'll put it on one of these, I'll plug it into the computer, which this goes in an iMac, and then I can boot from this. This is not a fast drive, this is a spinning hard drive. I do not use this as a boot drive, I use this as a storage drive, as an extra storage. I put videos on this because it's kind of slow. But if something happens to this, it's not as big of a deal as if something happens to the internal drive of your laptop, and you can start it. You can use this as a startup disk just the same as your internal drive. So with my iMac, I use an external drive like this instead of taking the iMac apart, which is a pain in the butt. I've done it before. It's got these stupid adhesive strips that go all along it. And it just is so hard to put the thing back together that I now use these. And here I can have a fresh drive anytime that I want it. And the drives are only like $300, less than $300. And so if something happens to my drive, I can just unplug it. Hopefully I keep a backup, which I do. You can also make a time machine backup of these. If you use this as your startup disk, an external drive with an internal SSD stuffed into one of these guys, you can do a time machine backup with it. So you always have a backup as long as you have time machine configured. And it's really a great idea, especially if you have an iMac, to boot from an SSD drive. It'll be faster, and it will preserve your internal hard drive, so you won't have any downtime. So I guess that's what's good. We've done a lot to set up a server. We're on video, let's see, we're on video 6 out of 12 now, so that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. We're halfway there, so we'll have a server in no time, and we would have saved money, so we're beating the system. Well, hey, thanks for watching. I'm just going to put it to the title card. If you like this video, please drop a comment. And if you're watching on YouTube, please hit subscribe, comment on this video. Hopefully a positive one, because it's coming from the heart. And hey, share with your friends. I'm happy to teach you whatever you want to learn. So if it's Mac related, just leave a comment. You can get in touch with me by commenting or messaging me on one of my social media channels. I'm on Facebook, YouTube, I'm on Twitter, Periscope, @AppleGreenTech is my username. So that's how you can find me. Also hit up my website, closetotheearth.com, and I'll give you a free gift. Just subscribe with your email and you'll get my top 6 tips for keeping your Mac running fresh. So it will run as fast as it possibly can with my 6 tips, and that's a gift for you to just say thank you for watching. Alright, so I'll be back tomorrow morning with more info, probably more opinions for sure.